try and beat him.
And the whole Paris-Dakar thing, he's like a real bigger hero than ever before now.
He's a cult figure now. Here you'll see how difficult it is for a bike to actually pass somebody on the route. This quad is sort of 50% slower than the bike, but the bike has to leave the route normally to pass, and so being with the car as well. So these guys really, if they hit something, they're going to be in trouble.
The temperature reached a high of 35 degrees as the first lap was completed back at Baberspan. The Toyota dealer team of Arpi Reinecker and Robin Houghton made it to the fuel stop first, but all was not well with their vehicle.
Not so good. Alternator light coming off.
With minutes ticking by and an electrical fault that had to be found and repaired, the other Toyota team of Kasi Kutsir appeared to be in much better shape.
It's fine. Still halfway, yeah?
After a speedy refuel, Kasi Kutsir and navigator Pete Swanepoel were back on the road. The monstrous Ford, in great condition, pulled in to refuel, but the Pennzoil Land Rover of Cliff Barker and Heinrich Latterhan had its fair share of problems.
Flat wheel, went up to fourth, and I don't know where we are now. But we got a flat wheel, and now we've lost our cycle. Otherwise fine.
With vehicles coming in rapidly through the pit stop, there was still frantic activity at the Toyota dealer pit, trying to rectify that problem without losing too much precious time. At the Gauloise Blonde pits, Vickers van Deventer seemed to be in better shape than his machine and was enjoying the fast pace of the race.
Very fast. Very, very fast. The grass is very long.
Hot on Vickers's heels, Christophe van der Merwe on his Banshee, giving the Paris-Dakar hero a good run. In third place, Paul Chomsa had made up a few places from his 7th starting position in the morning. Bike number 500, the KTM of Alfie Cox, wasted no time at the refueling pit stop as he had Errol Dalton on his Honda breathing down his neck.
Right, Glenn, you'll see that some of these guys have got bigger fuel tanks than the others, and in fact Errol apparently was missing out at every second fuel stop, so he was doing 160 kilometers instead of the regular 80 that most of the guys with the small tanks.
But the motorcycles, unlike the cars, get to refuel far more often.
Oh yes, yes, well they have to, unless you're on a 4-stroke where you can possibly do the 250.
Carl Leroux on his KTM here was also right up there with the top 2 bikes, but the heat of the day was definitely taking its toll. That's the nature of the Baberspan 500, testing all the competitors to the limit.
Yes, it's been around for many, many years. It's one of the older races on the calendar, and I think it's got a bit of a reputation, as you can see from the entry. A lot of people like coming down here.
Halfway mark, still 250 kilometers to go. I'm sure that we'll find that the more production-based vehicles and more reliable vehicles will come to the fore.
While Arpi Reinecker and Robin Houghton got their vehicle back on the road, the Pennzoil Products Land Rover of Cliff Barker and Heinrich Latterhan ran into another spot of bother.
I don't know, it just died. Power. No power.
These things are frustrating, but Cliff's an old warhorse, and I'm sure he'll be able to sort it out. He's very technical.
Still leading the quads well into the second lap, Vickers van Deventer performing superbly and chasing hard after the leaders was Mark Breckel. Right up front, Kasi Kutsir and Pete Swanepoel making good headway leading the vehicles category. As the day progressed, with the terrain taking its toll on the vehicles, the important point for the drivers was to keep to the roads and not to take unnecessary risks. Kenny, I guess when the guys are this far into the event, they can sort of slacken off a bit and lose concentration?
Not at all, Glenn. This is when you must concentrate. The guys do make mistakes at this stage. They're starting to get tired, and they've been on the road since 6 in the morning, and this is when you can actually win or lose the race.
As Jannie Buerter and Andre Carlson found out in their Nissan. The road's becoming very narrow in certain places, important to find the safest place to overtake the slower traffic. Again, Kenny, you've got to pick the right moment. You don't want to go this far and blow it.
It's quite easy to make mistakes at this stage. You saw where Bevan Bertolf just passed there. There could have been a donga around the corner, so you really do have to select where you're going to pass. You can't just go blind.
At one of the last major obstacles before the end of the race, the crowds gathered to support new leader Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak in their Pajero.
Isn't it fantastic to see the guys in the T1 vehicle that actually competed in the Dakar production vehicle, and they're now leading the category in the Class D.
After the loss of 43 minutes caused by electrical problems, Arpi Reneker and Robin Houghton made up incredible time to find themselves just ahead of Richard Carolyn in his race co. Log leaders in the Class A section, Greg Harvey and Boyce Stone, followed closely behind Richard Carolyn, with the Ford of Paolo Piazzamuzzo and Stratford Fucht in 5th position, with about 30 kilometers to go to the finish. The short wheelbase Sabat Land Rover, driven by Tony and Mandy Yeo with its 2.8-litre BMW engine, looked very strong in 6th overall. Jens van Rensburg and Willy Mengel's Chev Nomad appeared to be coming apart at the seams, but still hung in there. Leading the Class E division, Karel van Vuren and Koffie Versveld in their Toyota Hilux had a successful day's racing and got through this donga with ease. Another Toyota Hilux driven by Hein Grobbelaar and Charles Volmerans led the Class G division, showing what they're made of. As usual, a tremendously fast race for Alfie Cox. He appeared not long after the main vehicles in the event. One of the big upsets on the day was when Christophe van der Merwe took the lead in the quad section after Vickers van Deventer broke an axle, forcing him to fall back.
Yeah, but typical of Vickers, he made a plan, and he finished later on in the event, late in the afternoon.
Still in hot pursuit of Alfie Cox, leading in the open class was Errol Dalton on his Honda, who was also leading the 250cc division. Fighting for 3rd and 4th place behind Errol was Grant Bloomfield and Jeremy Davies. More than 16 minutes behind Christophe van der Merwe was Jacques Struwik on his Honda Quad. After a problem-free day, the TSW racing team, Colin and Derek Frankenberg in their Range Rover, maintained a good 5th position in their class. But the saying, "it's not over till it's over," became a harsh reality for Louis Boshoff as his Polaris broke down 30 k's from the finish.
Very tough. There's a whole lot of open sections, and the road is quite nice. It's a pity there ain't rain.
But there was always a helping hand on standby to tow the vanquished back to the finish line. For Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak, their triumphant arrival at the finish was well deserved.
A great reward after the disappointment of the Paris-Dakar for Neil. Great, really great.
We had our fair share of hassles this morning. The spare wheel kept on coming loose. We just battled to get into a rut because of the left-hand drive and, you know, sitting on the wrong side, navigating it. It sort of took a while to get into the slot, but after sort of about 10 o'clock, we started getting into a groove, but then the marking got so bad and there were no confirmation markers. You see on a route schedule, you got to turn left, but there's nothing to confirm that you are on the right route.
I've never driven cars as hard as today and concentrate to stay on the road. So we managed to caught up a hell of a lot of time. I think we were more than an hour behind, and I think we're now about 6 minutes behind. In 250 k's, we caught up that.
Yeah, it was pretty good considering I had a puncture in the first 25 k's. having a puncher dropped me right to the back of the field, and I had to work my way right the way through again. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Again, like I said, reliability is obviously my main feature, and that's what I'm aiming at. The short wheelbase is obviously a treacherous thing to drive out there, and it's a hell of a thing to keep on the road. But then again, that's what it's all about, and the fun's there.
Newton Love and Colin Porter were determined to make it to the finish, and not even a flat tyre was going to prevent them from finishing first in their class. The number 500 KTM of Alfie Cox crossed the finish line in 5 hours, 24 minutes and 53 seconds to win overall, as well as the open bike division.
Yeah, today I think they sprung something new on us. We've never been to the areas we went to today. And it wasn't long straights with thick sand. It was just very tight, hard surface. But it was a good one, good race today. The marking was very good, and I think it's a different Baberspan to the other ones.
4 minutes behind Alfie, Errol Dalton came in, having to settle for second overall, but winning the 250cc class. After the retirement of Vickers van Deventer, Christo van der Merwe, the defending national quad champion, won the quad category after a consistent day's racing. Arriving at the finish just after Carl LaRue, who finished third overall in the bike section, Jeremy Davies on his Honda took a third position in the open class. More than 12 minutes behind, finished second on his Yamaha. But for most of the field, the drama was not yet over, and the long road to the finish was still ahead, even if it meant getting there on 3 wheels. Overall results then, Richard Carolyn not only winning the Class A for space frame vehicles, but also the race overall after times were calculated. In Class B, Love and Potter managed a 6-minute lead over Bond and Newton, whilst in Class C, Gerben and Labuschagne finished almost an hour and a half before Willy and Chantal Bahrain. Class D for commercial vehicles saw the Vodacom Pajero of Neil Woolrich and Paul Vermaak first. In the other commercial vehicle classes, Toyota Hilux came first in Class E and G, with the Nissan of Van der Merwe and Buerta taking the honours in Class F. In the 200cc bike section, a close finish between Van Niekerk and Farmer, with Errol Dalton a deserving winner of the 250cc division. In the open bikes division, Alfie Cox finished with a lead of over 6 minutes over Carl LaRue, and another 8 minutes further back was Jeremy Davies. Class K for 200 quads saw Costello 13 minutes ahead of de Villiers, whilst the open quads had Van der Merwe as the overall winner.
Congratulations to the organisers and competitors on a spectacular race.
And until the next event, the Sugarbelt 400 taking place in KwaZulu-Natal on May 2nd, it's goodbye from us. This programme brought to you by Toyota.